Hi, this is Congressman Tom Cole in 4th District of Oklahoma. It's another one of our weekly congressional chats. Congress has been both busy and productive this week. And frankly, the committee that I'm privileged to chair, the Appropriations Committee, has been at the center of that. As some of you will, all of you will no doubt recall, we had a terrible government shutdown last year, mostly in the month of November, but over 40 odd days with the government shutdown. We've been moving diligently to not only end that, which we did, but to then move appropriations bills through so the government's fully funded through September 30th of this year. So far, we've been able to get 8 done. 3 when we reopened the government in November, and that took care of our veterans, took care of military construction for next year, took care of agriculture and the spending and things like SNAP and WIC that some of our less fortunate families certainly depend on, and took care of the basic functioning of Congress so that the Capitol Police would get paid and the people that do the staff work would get paid, etc. That was step 1. Last week was step 2. We passed 3 important bills, over $184.5 billion of spending authority. One of them was Interior. That's the management of all of the national parks, the Bureau of Land Management. EPA is honestly in the Interior package. Indian Health, many tribal functions are taken care of. The United States manages about 1/5 of the land mass of the continental United States is under federal control. So it's a pretty big deal, and that got done. In addition to that, what's called Commerce, Justice, and Science got done. That's the Department of Commerce. The Department of Commerce contains the National Weather Center, amongst other things, which of course is located in Norman, Oklahoma. We had a big win there. They not only are funded for the year, but we got them a reasonable increase. I know there's a lot of concern about that, so we were proud of that. But also, this funds the FBI. This funds the Department of Justice. This funds things like the National Science Foundation. So a lot of our major research, NASA, our space program, all that was passed last week. And then also energy and water. And of course, this is Oklahoma, so anything that says energy and water, you know is important. But this is everything from our national nuclear stockpile, naval reactors. We've always in America been very careful to keep nuclear weapons out of the direct control of the military. So that's actually a civilian funded enterprise that we marry together in the military. And about half the budget of energy and water really are nuclear weapons, but also the flow of nuclear fuel to our nuclear reactors for commercial power. About 20% of the power in the United States is from nuclear power. We don't see it in Oklahoma, but it's very important in other parts of the country and probably extraordinarily significant for the longer term powering of the United States. So again, those were 3 very important bills. They all got done. They've been passed. They should pass literally today. This is Thursday, January the 15th. So those things will be all funded through September of next year. Then this week, yesterday actually, Congress passed 2 more bills. The House passed 2 more bills. One is the operation of the State Department. This is called National Security and Related Programs portion, and we passed what's called the FSGG, Financial Services and General Government Bill. That funds things like the IRS, funds things that relate to the basic clerical functionings of the government. Very important bills. And these bills that have been passed, they've been incredibly bipartisan because we've negotiated them out. One of the things I'm proudest of, on the 3-bill package last week, Interior, Energy and Water, and CJS, Commerce, Justice, and Science, that bill passed 397 to 28, or something, or 24. That's pretty amazing. And in a time when Congress is this divided and at war, for us to move that big a package through with negotiation, a lot of compromise, big deal. Same thing's true with this week. Now, people say, well, you're just doing the same thing? No, we actually cut spending in the State Department by 16%. That's $10 billion. And guess what? It got 341 votes. We were able to make significant savings. And FSGG, we didn't make as many savings, but it's $140 million less than last year. We're passing these appropriations bills, and to date, we're spending less money for this year than we spent last year. So I'm pretty proud as an appropriator to actually do that. Now, some people will complain, well, you should have done this or that, and you should have cut more. The reality is, we have to move these in a bipartisan fashion. They have to get 60 votes in the Senate. There's only 53 Republicans. Some of those Republicans won't vote for any spending, no matter what, which means, by the way, then you have to have more Democrats. It's not particularly helpful when people say that, because, if you're the majority, you ought to be willing to govern. And saying it's got to be exactly my way or I won't support just means you become dependent on votes from the other side. But we're moving big chunks, and by the way, the president has supported all these. That's one of the great things too. President Trump issued statements of support for the first three back in November, for the three that we passed out of the House and will pass out of the Senate tonight, and for the two that we just passed out of the House and sent on to the Senate. So actually been quite a bit of productive legislation, and again, I'm proud that it's bipartisan, but I'm also proud it's cutting spending in a bipartisan way, and that the president has been supportive of all 8 bills. The task now is we've been negotiating for weeks, is to get the last 4 bills that fund the government done, and that's what we're trying to do right now, and literally post these bills on Sunday night so members have an opportunity to read them and then vote on them next week. Now, there's going to be some challenges in doing that. We may not be able to get all of them done. But these are very important bills. One of them is defense, and that's half the discretionary budget. That's over $900 billion. We all know how important that is to the men and women that defend us. We also all know how important that is to the Oklahoma economy. This is the money that pays workers at Tinker and at Altus Air Force Base and at Fort Sill, and all our folks connected, but also all our civilian jobs that are part of defending. So Oklahoma has a huge interest in this bill. I think we're going to fare very well if we can get it passed. And there's big issues like Ukraine, or differences over funding different weapon systems, or what should the exact size be. So getting Democrats and Republicans to agree on this, and particularly liberal Democrats and conservative Republicans, is a challenge. We also will be trying to pass the Labor, Health and Human Services and Education bill. That's the largest domestic spending bill. It's about $225 billion. Again, there's some important things for Oklahoma, like impact aid, that is federal dollars that flow to local school districts because the federal government has facilities there. They're not taxed. State government can't tax Tinker Air Force Base. We put a lot of kids from Tinker in Midwest City schools and Oklahoma City School and Dell City and more. Those kids should have dollars from the employer of their parents behind them, just the way other employers pay property taxes. So this is the government's part. Oklahoma is the largest recipient per capita of impact aid in the United States. So pretty big to school systems in our area, like my own, more school system where my own son teaches and where I went to school and he went to school. Pretty important in Lawton, where Fort Sill is the largest single employer and the second largest single site employer in the state of Oklahoma after Tinker Air Force Base. So it's not just the military activities, it's the support that comes. That's all in there. So there's a lot of things, a lot of different programs that Oklahoma schools depend on. So we got to get that one done. Then there are, excuse me, there's the Homeland Security bill. This will probably be the most contentious bill. There's been a lot of discussion about ICE. We think it needs to be funded. Look, I'm a big defender of ICE. They're doing their job. They're protecting us from people that have entered the country illegally, and they're removing those people. Every administration deports people. By the way, in the Clinton years, we deported over 12 million people. When President Obama was president, he deported almost 6 million people that had come to the country illegally. So that's what they do. That's what ICE is supposed to do, is sort of find and deport people that have come into the country illegally. Now, they focus mostly on people that are committing criminal activity, but they're justified in anything they want. If you come to the country and you break the law to get here, I'm sorry, you might be the nicest person in the world, but you arrived in the country illegally. So we've seen a lot of resistance to them in recent weeks. That's in your headlines. That impacts the passing of the bill that funds the agency. And we will have a lot of Democrats that vote no. And that's sad, because this is a federal law enforcement agency enforcing federal law. And I'm sorry, the way the Constitution reads, federal law is supreme over the United States. You don't get to opt out of the parts you don't like. So when you hear things like sanctuary cities and sanctuary states, that simply means they've decided they don't have to do what the federal government has legislated. Now, you don't like what the federal law is, go win some elections and then change the law. That's the way our system works. Nothing wrong with that. There's also nothing wrong with peaceful protest. If you have a disagreement and you want to protest, this is the United States of America, you can say what you want. It is illegal when you start to interfere with law enforcement officials who are enforcing the law of the United States, harassing them, injuring them, using your vehicles to obstruct them. That led to a tragic death in Minnesota recently. I'm sorry, that kind of behavior is unacceptable, it's despicable, and quite frankly, painting federal officials who are law enforcement officials who are working hard to protect us as anything other than great Americans serving the public is unacceptable. And yet we have public officials doing that all the time. So I'm saying all this because getting that particular agency funded will have less to do with the merits of funding them and the programs and more to do with the controversy about the entire immigration issue right now. So we want to get that one done. The last one we want to get done is the Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development Bill. Very important for transportation. This is how we fund, air traffic controllers all across the country. The Mike Monroney Institute, Aviation Center in Oklahoma City, the third largest single site employer in the state of Oklahoma, do fantastic work. This is where we will, do upgrading and modernizing of our air system. A lot of road projects, a lot of water projects. So we need to get that bill done. I will tell you, there's a lot of great things for Oklahoma in that particular bill. Our delegation works very hard on these things. I work very closely with my friends in the House, Stephanie Bice, who is the vice chair of that subcommittee. So she's looking out for Oklahoma's interests. Frank Lucas, where the Mike Monroney Center is in his district, he's looking out. Obviously, we have major interest in there in the 4th District of Oklahoma. And it's been helpful to have Mark Wayne Mullen now in the United States Senate. He sits on the Appropriations Committee in the Senate, and obviously we collaborate and work forward back and forth to try and make sure that things are funded all across Oklahoma. He's been wonderful to have him. So all that will be on the floor. The final phase of the negotiation is going on now, Thursday, Friday, and over the weekend. If we can, we'll post the bills, and then we will try and move them across the floor in the House of Representatives next week, send them to the Senate. The Senate theoretically would then pass them all. They've negotiated with us. We're negotiating with the Senate right now. And bingo, no government shutdown on January 30th, and everything funded through September 30th. And frankly, Oklahoma's interests at important federal facilities like Tinker Air Force Base, Fort Sill, important things like Kerr Water Labs in Ada, which should be taken care of tonight if the Senate passes the bill that they're funded by, Interior. Altus Air Force Base, McAllister Ammunition Depot, Kerr-McClellan Waterway. All these things are tied up in these bills, either have just been passed or will soon be passed. So, again, while Congress has been fighting and everything, it's quietly moved 8 of the 12 bills across the line in the House. It's about to move another 3, which would get us up to 6 in the Senate, and hopefully then they would follow that week after next with the last, probably the last 6 bills that we can get R4 done in the House, and the government would be fully funded. With that, I don't have much else to tell you, but I will tell you there's a lot else going on. Be happy to talk to you about it, but my focus right now is getting these appropriations bills passed, the government funded, and the interests of Oklahoma taken care of. So good luck, God bless, and look forward to talking to you again next week.